Yo, what is going on, you guys? Bashtianygo here, and I hear my boy Rob with the face
What's
cam. Holy
what's
crap!
up?
What's
I'm
up?
actually like here. It's crazy.
That's
It's not
crazy.
just my hands.
Yeah, it's
Like
not
I'm
your
here, guys.
hands. We just see your
It's not.
voice.
It's you get to see me in the
Yeah,
flesh. Isn't it beautiful?
it's awesome, man.
But hmm?
So today, guys, we are going to be taking a look at. We're talking for a while now, as we do every now and then. We're talking about the best side deck cards for the September 2023 format, guys. The current format they're currently in right now is super crazy. I know, time flies. Cashier is gone out the window. We don't really need to prepare for that anymore. Realistically, if it happens to do something at the YCS this weekend, then we'll just forgive us for what we're about to say today. But today we're going to be taking a look at some of the cards that have been mentioned and or rumored to be in the side decks going into more recent competitive play YCSs, regionals, things like that. And we're just going to go ahead and rank them S, A, B, C, D, with S, of course, being the S tier rank, needs to be in your side deck, guaranteed, and then so on and so forth, with D being you can kiss that card goodbye, right? Cool.
Not even gonna touch it.
Not even gonna touch it. Exactly.
D is the Grinch. You're not gonna touch it with a 5.5 foot pole.
Yeah. However the song goes. So what do you say, Rob? You feeling jolly?
Yeah, I got the big red on. It just hit fall in New York, so it might as well just be Thanksgiving. And if it might as well just been Thanksgiving, that means it's Christmas. So like
It must. It must be
I'm
so
jolly and
nice
happy.
over there.
No.
It has to be nice, dude. It's still 100 degrees over here, almost.
Oh, okay. I know that sounds pretty. It's pretty
Yeah, yeah,
nice.
yeah, no, it's wild. It's wild. But on to what we're actually here for. We're not here to talk
Here
about the weather.
for-
So, first card we're gonna go ahead and take a look at. Let's go ahead and go in order that they're already here, so we can actually go ahead and talk about anti-spell fragrance. Right now, anti-spell fragrance. I don't know about you personally. I really do like this card. I like the applicability of it. I like what it can do, what it is capable of. It is still very effective against some of the top decks. Of course, it can still hit branded. Pirelli forces them to do everything during draw phase. While it may not be the most effective, it still hinders the play, right, of some of the top decks. Doesn't do that much against Unchained, in my personal opinion, because they just go monsters. So I think this is more or less a B to C tier category. What do you think?
I would put it more in the B. So like when I'm looking at the tier list, I look at it as S tier stuff is going to be stuff that every deck can play
Correct.
or every deck should play. Half the decks that were suspected to going into like Dortmund and other events cannot play this card. Brandon can't play this card. Um, Pearly can't play this card, but
Mm.
Unchained can play this card. A lot of the rogue decks are getting back. Great. That uses this card very well, but since it's not more well rounded and like here,
You cut out a
yeah.
little bit there. What was saying, Rob?
I was basically saying that like not every deck can play it. Unchained can use it very well, especially because like you said, they're monster traps. I think the only spells they play are like Thrust and Prosperity. Um, but then Pearly and Branded cannot play this card at all.
Mm.
So I think putting it at B tier is like super like middle ground. The decks that can support it, this card's very strong again,
Mm.
and
Right.
the decks that because unless you play against Unchained, every deck plays like a crap ton of spells now. Especially we're gonna have like Thrust and Balance going back in the main deck.
Mm.
Um, so I think B tier is super solid for that.
Yeah, no, I definitely have to agree. I mean, the only reason I was thinking maybe like C tier is I didn't know if it was as going to be as impactful as some of the other cards that we do have, of course, on here. But I mean, definitely it hits as we were saying around half of the decks that we are going to expect in the meta. We can't forget about Fluanderies as well. You guys gotta prepare for the flu. I know the flu is
The,
back, baby.
the Flugu,
The
not the
flu goo is
Flugu.
back. But yeah, so beats here, we can definitely go ahead and agree on that. I actually want to go ahead and touch on these two together. We can touch on Book of Moon and Book of Eclipse. I'm not putting them in D's here. I just want to go ahead and separate them real quick. I know.
Whoa,
I
whoa,
know, but
whoa,
hey, yo.
whoa,
So
whoa.
what I want to go ahead and say is this in this current format, I definitely believe I like Book of Moon a little bit more than Book of Eclipse. I know. I just with the way the current format is going, I don't feel like you need to run the risk of playing Book of Eclipse and it getting ashed, just because a lot of the boards that you're going to be going up against are, I don't believe, are going to have that many big time threats. For example, let's look at the best deck in the room, which is going to be Unchained, right? I think that's a fact at this point. They're gonna be ending on what, a DDD Wave High King Caesar, a Rage, and maybe one other Link, if I'm not mistaken, or
If I'm right, it's the usual board is DDD Rage, and then it's the Pop One.
the pop.
Is the
Okay,
usual is like the average DDD, and
yeah.
um
Which Eclipse is not doing anything against that Book of Moon wouldn't do,
yeah.
and then you're running the
So
risk of the. Sorry, go ahead.
so my perspective, I would actually swap them. I
Really?
think Eclipse would be stronger than Moon. So like the main application Book of Moon had, and of the previous format, including Kashtira, people were migrating to playing 3 Book of Eclipse and 1 Book of Moon because of the not targeting, or because against Pearly you can't target the card top. So Book of Eclipse like guaranteed that you'd be able to like interact with the board.
Yeah.
But the other thing is against Pearly, and so there's a lot of decks, like a lot of like the tier 2 decks are more synchro heavy strategies like Noble, but there's also a big deck that we forgot to talk about too, which is Tier Limit. Tier Limit, I think, is actually super strong going into Dortmund, and the Tier Limit board will most of the fold to a Book of Eclipse versus a Book of Moon that doesn't really do anything. You also have to get the application against Pearly, where they go like draw card, activate trap, chain Book of Eclipse. You crack the entire board because Pearly is also starting to play like Fenrir, and they usually end on either card or that's a bounce Princess Sprite. And if you have an Eclipse, it deals with the entire board. Versus your Book of Moon only will trade with the Noir activation, so you still have to play through like the and then I just think Book of Eclipse is just super strong. So in my perspective, I'd probably swap it. Because the other thing is Book of Moon was really strong. A singular Rise Heart you wanted to deal with, or like when you have Kashtira in the format, that if you have Book of Moon by itself, if they go Special Unicorn and you book it, 9 times out of 10 they will pass.
True. Yeah.
So what's it called? So that in that case it was really strong, but without taking away the singular Rise Heart, I'd rather play Eclipse in my deck than Book of Moon. So I would swap it. I would put Book of Eclipse in A, in what's it called? Book of Moon in B.
Well, I think we're also missing on the versatility of these cards as well. Not only are they offensive cards, they could be defensive cards as well, right? For example, a card that's very, very highly played right now, and I think you would agree with this, is Imperm. Imperm's starting to become a lot more, seeing a lot more play, competitive play, whether in the main, not really the side. I think it's more of a main deck staple, if anything. And these cards are, of course, both serve a similar purpose, that they help you, dodge that type of negation, or Effect Veiler, which is not really seeing as much play, but similar concept as Imperm. But I think we can both agree that these two cards are A to B. I would not put them at S tier. But I think we can both in agreement.
I'd say both of them as A is fine.
They're both at A?
I think
okay.
Both the A, because every deck can play these cards if they do so.
Right.
But I would put Eclipse above Moon.
Yeah, I think both these definitely you put instead of like anti-spell fragrance as, again, the versatility.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can definitely agree on that one then. Cool. All right, awesome. Let's see. So next up we have Crossout Designator. So I want to say primarily used in a lot. I'm talking about a lot of Chimera branded. And I've seen some Flu play this as well, so you can go ahead and you don't have to. I know Flu. You don't have to deal with the Droll. You don't have to deal with the Imperm, whatever it might be. I struggle with this because it's really only in those two decks that I'm seeing it be played. But then again, the format just started, so I'm not sure if this is gonna go up or down at this point. I kind of want to go ahead and put it at between a B to an A. What's your thoughts on this one?
I would put it at a high B.
High B?
I would put it at a high B because Crossout shines in formats that are defined, right? So it's hard. So like going into this new format, we don't know what tech cards are going to be played. We do not like we have a general idea of what deck are going to be played, but we don't know the specific tech cards yet that are going to be played. So when Crossout started seeing play again recently, it was like okay, everyone agreed 6 books are in your deck. Talents is probably going to be as like a 1 to 2 of in your deck. Um, what else is going to be in your deck? Imperms, Nibiru, stuff like that.
Right.
And you mentioned
Right.
Flu and Branded, but also this was Pearly because it's a card that you can set and or if you draw it, it deals with Joel, and you can set it and it deals with books. And going second, it also deals with D barrier. If you do not have like a defined format, it's hard to play Crossout because then it's just like okay, I'm gonna play Crossout for let's say Joel, but then no one's playing Joel, so I'm playing Crossout for nothing. Or people are playing books, play Crossout for books, no one's playing books. You're doing it for. But I think the card in like decks like Branded, where you activate Branded Fusion, and if they Ash Blossom it, you will lose. Then this card is super strong, and I think it has the potential to get super strong going into like once the format is like, all right, these are the cards being played, and these are the cards that like you want to cross out.
Yeah. Well, I think that you actually just made a point that could be used for as an argument for the other side as well with D barrier, for example. D barrier I think is an extremely strong card this format, except of course against Fluid Unchained. But against I think every single Manadium, you flip a D barrier, they're not doing anything. Branded is they're not doing anything. You know, it's I think it's very 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 high impact. But I think high tier B, it's fair to go ahead and leave at.
Yeah, it's definitely fair because you can. So I know like I see the floodgates are in like the middle of it, so we probably won't talk about them for a little bit. But once it's like certain floodgates are better in defined and undefined formats. It's like if you know where like a floodgate, like let's say an anti spell, is very good because that shuts off like a third of the card pool.
Right.
So in an undefined format, it's safer to play an anti spell versus going, okay, I know I'm going to play against Pearly and Branded, so I'm going to play D barrier. But we'll probably touch upon more once we get to
we got D barrier over here. It's coming.
Yeah, it's coming.
It's coming.
Okay.
Next up, we got Change of Heart, a card that can win you a lot of games, if you can get to it, which is the issue here. Now, I mean, the only way I think you can search is with Thrust, which I don't think is very much reliable. I think the only deck that will actually genuinely play Change of Heart is anyone brave enough to play Sky Striker this format. So I realistically, I want to go ahead and put this at C- to D+ category. I mean, it because yes, it can out a lot of boards on its own, but it's only searchable through Thrust, so you gotta play Thrust in order to go ahead and search this card, or Prosperity and hope you able to dig into it. I just don't think it's consistent enough to put any higher than a D to a C tier.
So I would put Change of Heart and Herald of the Abyss because if we can just pull them out as well, I'll put the Herald of the Abyss and Change of Heart in the same category of these cards are really strong if your opponent plays into Thrust, right? So,
but you can always play more Herald of the Abyss. You can't play more than one Change of Heart.
Yeah, but you never really want to draw like Herald of the Abyss on its own. Like you like as Thrust is like such like a strong card. This Thrust being able to get you to access to these, but it's like standalone. The cards are more high impact. I wouldn't put it necessarily D because of it being at 1. I'd probably put it at like a C or like a low B, just because the card is like if most of the Unchained decks, at least from what I saw, were playing like 3 Thrust with a Change of Heart, like amongst Jesse and Paxless for Unchained. Because when you do draw that card is nuts. But when you do have access to that card is nuts. But it's not consistently reliable. So I put out like a low B to a high C. I wouldn't throw it straight.
Okay. Well, we'll settle on a C.
Yeah, C is good.
Settle on a C.
C for change.
C for change.
C for change.
Let's see, Chaos Hunter.
So shit, straight in D.
Yeah, I don't think we need to talk about that one. Next.
Yeah.
Marionette Might, a card that honestly I completely forgot about until Jesse and Pac were bringing it out. I think it's cool. I think being able to go ahead and take your opponent's wave hiking Caesar and just pretty much out your opponent's entire board, um, it's cool. It's a card you can definitely play at 3. It's not a change of heart, but it's more specifically for fiends and zombies.
Yeah.
So
I would throw it and see. Like I think the card is like very cool, and I think like
yeah,
when you do play against like DDD, but having this one card that it doesn't put a card on the board either. So they, if they were going to use the trap, they can only use it on the monster you take. Whether you take the Caesar or you take the Link.
No, you take the Xyz.
Yeah. So you take the Caesar, and then they're forced to trap the Caesar. But at that point, that means that they're popping their own rage, and like your one card just got so much value. But if you're playing as anything else, you are never activating this card. So I think for that,
against
like,
literally anything else, this card is garbage.
Like, you play against Pearly, garbage. You play against Despia, garbage. Dragon, garbage. Like
yeah.
No.
And unless you got that one person playing zombie synchro.
Oh my, I actually know. I know our local person that plays a zombie deck.
See, there you go. There's always that one guy.
I'm excited for him.
Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and touch on Cosmic Cyclone. So Cosmic Cyclone, I think, is definitely going to be more in the higher tiers of this tier list. I would go ahead and say that Cosmic Cyclone is an S tier category. Just because it has a lot of obviously versatility, being able to hit. But we are in a format where floodgates are starting to become a little bit more and more popular as the days go on by. I think there can be only one, which we'll get to in a little bit, is becoming more popular as well. And it also has a versatility. It can hit, of course, the Unchained traps before your opponent can go ahead and pop them. So it has that nice additional benefit to them as well. I think Cosmic Cyclone is personally no-brainer S tier. What do you think?
No, I definitely agree. Whenever I build my own decks, there are 2 cards like I always look for backrow removal. This is the one I almost always use. As the versatility of going first, versatility of going second, banishes stuff so that you don't have to worry about the floats. Shadow Steel people traumatized by. Then you also have that it also hits field spells too. So if you're playing in tier limit or any like field spell like decks, it's mainly for like tier and Castillo or like other things of that, where this card just has that great one for one value. So definitely agree S tier, because this is a card you could put in going first, going second. Every deck can play it. Yeah, straight up S tier.
Yeah, no, definitely. Very, very, very good card in format. Pankratops. This was a great card in the previous format. This format, though, I'm not too sure. Like I said, I've seen some individuals mess around with it. I just don't really know what it would be good enough to play. I don't know, man. I'm thinking maybe C to B. Like, what do you think on this one?
I would throw it in C. I think this card is strong. I think pink is like that card will apply so much pressure. In like simple, the problem is pink, it shines in simplified game state.
Oh yeah.
So when they have like one monster, 1/2 back row, special pink attack a monster, pop a back row is like one of the best trades you can ever do. But if boards are gonna be, so the one thing that's scary going into next format is all the combo decks that lost to a Rise Heart are gonna probably see some form of play, and the Pinkertops trade one for one doesn't really like accomplish anything. Like it'll trade with a Baron, and they trade for like, let's say a what's it called, like a, but it won't be like, okay, this card, like now I will proceed to win the game from here. I just don't think the 1-for-1 trade is good enough right now. But this card is still very strong, so I probably put it at like a high C, because it does have that versatility of going second. If you play against like trap decks, you can special pink, pop a back row, and then you can play. But even then, like I don't think it's strong enough right now. But this card is crazy.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
in,
No.
in its heyday. Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
Someone 2019, someone dropped the panko chops on you. You were cooked.
It's game over. That's it.
Absolutely cooked. Nah, your salad board was cracked. Your entire salad gone.
Get
But
that shit
yeah,
out of here. Yeah, so we definitely agree on that one.
yeah, agree
Spooky
on that.
Dogwood, bro. This card is S tier, guaranteed.
Bro,
This
you're.
is this is the golden
I've
card right here.
I've only ever seen 3 people in New York play those cards. If you're from New York, you can literally name those 3 people. I would just put it in C tier. I think that it's like it's a good card.
It's not bad to put in D. Definitely not.
Yeah, no. It's like when you are in end of match procedures, this card will make you have
Clutch.
That is the only thing I can really think of.
Yeah.
I'd rather just like play a good game in an honorable way versus going like, oh, that's time in the round, Warner. But yeah.
Come on, when it comes down to competitive Yu-Gi-Oh, there's no such thing as having honor. You fucking you throw down that
I'm not trying to take
again? Spooky Dogwoods.
But I'm not trying to take 39 minutes and activate Ghost One for a W.
Sometimes it comes down to it. I know my boy Fail here in San Antonio, he plays this card religiously in his side deck and always comes in clutch for him. Always. Always. But yeah, we'll go. We'll definitely in agreement. This definitely a C tier. If it comes up, cool. But you know,
if you play this card, I'm gonna look at you sideways. I'm sorry, as a person that used to judge a lot, like I'm gonna look at you sideways every time. Especially if it was like game 3. But on to the next one.
Right. Next one's a fun one. We got Raigeki. So, I mean, am I crazy to say that board wipes are good this format?
It's like we don't know what we're gonna get. But in my opinion, I don't see it here. I think Dark Hole is better than Raigeki.
Do I have Dark Hole on here?
No, I don't see a Dark Hole. I see Lightning Storm.
Sorry.
No, there's Dark Hole disrespect here.
Oh my god.
I think it doesn't interact well into Unchained, and it doesn't deal with a Noir.
Well, and you activate it against an Unchained board. All they do is activate Rage and add back a thing, right?
No, but then Yamna summons back another guy. So Yamna summons back the Link monster, I believe. When a card is destroyed.
It summons back Rage?
Yeah. So you Raigeki to deal with the Caesar, basically. So at that point...
I mean, it gets rid of the Caesar.
No, but then the Caesar floats into the Ghost, the continuous spell, and then you get the Link the next turn, so you better get cooked. So I'd probably put it as like a C tier. I think.
Okay, it's only bad against Unchained. It cooks Flu. Unless they have Green Town.
But like Flu. But like the Fluga. Like you just book Eclipse it. Like I would put it as like a low B or to a high C. I don't think the card is bad, but like I would rather, if I'm playing a deck, I'd rather play Dark Hole. Especially because like from past formats, especially formats with tier or I tested with Jack, there were so many times where you Dark Hole your own stuff and that is full combo. Like on like set Merly, like with a simplified game state, set Merly or set Sharon, activate Dark Hole will win you a game.
Oh yeah. Well, that's certain decks though.
Yeah, but certain decks. Well, that's what I'm saying. But Dark Hole has more like extension applications, and like Raigeki is just like the what's it called? Just like, oh, I'm gonna draw now kind of card. So Dark Hole has the extra utility, but it's not in every deck. I will agree with that.
Yeah, anything more specific. Like we start making the argument like, oh, in Cosmo, you know.
Yeah, Cosmo, you get to pop a ship and float into Tin Can.
That's a plus.
Tin Can equals you win, man, bro.
Let's actually go ahead and stay on the Raigeki Lightning Storm vibe since we're already kind of talking about it. I do like Lightning Storm more than Raigeki. Just going into a deck that we haven't, I don't think, touched upon yet is Labyrinth. Have we mentioned that deck?
Boo.
Bro, I
No.
understand how you feel, but it's untouched on the ban list. It's full power as can be. And in addition, I believe it's an Age of Overlords coming out soon. It gets another card that sets any normal trap you want, right? From your
I
deck.
believe so. Like
The Butler?
the butler.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's
I
stupid.
think
It's absolutely ridiculous.
I would put Lightning Storm in A tier because so when I was talking about Backrow removal before, like with Cosmic being like the one I always the one next to that was Lightning.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Lightning Storm does have that versatility of being able to destroy like both spell and trap, and it's like one of the strongest cards you can start. But the problem is it does not have that versatility of being able to be a card Cosmic does. Um, and it's like one of the worst top decks. Like if you're in a grind, like let's say you're grinding, you want to like try to crack your opponent's board. Lightning Storm's the worst one to draw. But like as a blowout, like I draw as 6 card, and you're playing against like Lab, or if you're playing combo deck that puts everything. This that card is very strong, so I put it at like a low A because like that's the second. I feel like besides like Duster, that's like like you can argue that that is because it's basically a duster and it like guarantees clears like everything, whether it's spell or trap, whether it's monster. Like whenever you activate lightning storm.
Yeah, it's always a high impact. I definitely have to agree with you there. Cool. Let's see. On to the next one. We got DD Crow. I love DD Crow, man.
S tier.
I'm a fan of DD Crow. I'm gonna go ahead and put it towards the high end of A right
I would
now.
put it in S.
I wouldn't say that.
So like,
I wouldn't not say that just yet, because we still have Bestials coming up, and I understand that DD Crow has more versatility against Pirelli. Believe me, I've been making that argument ever since everyone kept playing Bestials instead, and I said Bestials suck, whatever, because I couldn't afford Bahamut's. So I said DD Crow is the best card of all time. Go ahead.
so it craps on Pearly because if they go Lily effect target, you banish it. It cracks the Unchained board because you hit. I think it's like one of is mid combo. Good against dragons. It's good against tier element. It does not lose to threat, or it doesn't lose to as hard as a bestial because like monster on the board. I just think like if you're like going blind into a room, I'd rather have Crow in my deck than a bestial game one. And I think every deck or most of the decks right now can afford to play Crow. Like if you're playing like if you're looking at your hand, you start with Ash, and then you go to Imperm, and then you look at like you look at Nibiru's role, and you make that decision from there from 1 to 2, and then Crow would be like amongst those as well. I feel like because now it's just like because more Unchained players are playing around Nibiru, and playing around Nibiru plays into Crow a little bit better. So I would just put a S tier. Like I think that card is very
Right off the bat, you don't think it has anything to prove?
huh?
You don't think it has anything to prove before we go ahead and put it at S tier? You think it's right off the bat?
I think this is like whenever I think like when you think of iconic Yu-Gi-Oh hand, you think of Maxi, Veiler, and DD Crow.
You think of what?
Maxi, like when I think of like iconic Yu-Gi-Oh hand traps, I think of Maxi and DD Crow and like Ash. Like my like off rip, I think this card is very very strong. And it's a card that I've been testing since like last format 2, so like before with like Kashtira, but it was hard to play Crow when Kashtira existed because you have to worry about Kashtira. So why are you going to devote 2 to 3 cards in your side deck as a DD Crow when you play against Kashtira? This card doesn't do anything. You'd rather just have a card. Bro. And now I feel like more decks are going to play into the DD Crow, especially just like having a card that deals with like that overlaps between Pearly, Unchained, and Tier Limit. I think it's gonna be super strong.
So then, would you say Bestials are high A or low S?
High A. High A, because you can argue to not play Bestials because of it's only really good against Unchained, and it has applications against Pearly, and it's good against Tier, but it plays into Thrust really bad. And more people are doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And more people are doing like the the levels the wave king Caesar combo
Mm.
before like they commit to where the DD Crow would hurt or the where the what's it called would hurt the Bastille. So if more people are doing the combos that play around Bastille, play around Nibiru, um, then it's gonna be less effective. But that doesn't mean the combo is bad. Like
Mm.
Bastilles
No,
are
no,
still
no, by
very
any means.
strong, but I think since Bastilles are being played around more than what's it called than DD Crow, but
Mm.
Bastilles are super strong.
That's a
Like
good
having a
approach.
Magnemite.
I never considered thinking about it like the playing into the thrust or playing into the wave high King Caesar, which can negate, of course, special summons.
Yeah,
That's a good take on it, though, for sure. Ooh,
using
big
the
brain.
noggin.
Use the noggin. Dark Blue no more. Clearly, S tier, guaranteed. So I mean, I like this card. Don't get me wrong. I'm gonna go ahead and put it. Mm,
I put a B in above anti spell.
I was gonna say high B, yeah. But I was trying to think like, because realistically, like this against Unchained, you would still have the trap card to have additional interruption. But it does get rid of two
The Caesar.
initial. It does still serve a huge purpose.
Yeah.
Right. So, but I think high B is there's other cards that do this job a lot better. I mean, as far as clearing the board and getting rid of all the nonsense, where I think B is fair.
Yeah, I think so the problem is that right it's like you don't know if people are gonna go like combo heavy or if they're going to go more mid range. Like Unchained as a deck is it's like it has combos now, but it's more of like a mid range control deck versus like Infernoble and Manadium, which are just like combo. Dark Ruler shines against Infernoble and against some of the Manadium boards. Like the average Manadium board is Baron, Oppo, Chaos Angel. No, it's Baron, Oppo, Despotter, and this card shits on that. So, but the problem is if you play against Unchained, it deals with the Caesar and it forces the trap technically. Um, but it's not that strong. And then Pearly, it's not that strong because it doesn't deal with more. So if the decks are more combo centric, then Dark Ruler is better. But if the decks are more mid range, you like tier, then it's like then it doesn't do the worst. So I think B is like a perfect B is like these cards are good and these cards have application, but
Mm,
there's reasons that they're not seeing like the consistent play. They'll see like fringe play.
right. Forbidden Droplet. Again, I'm a fan of this card. However, I just don't think that decks can really play it right now. I'm gonna go ahead and put this at a C tier right now. Yeah, it can. Again, listen, it can add a lot of boards. It is extremely powerful card, but I just don't think that there is the hand economy right now, unless you're playing Branded Chimera, because that card draws you like 40 cards or any runic variant. Um, if you play that, then potentially yeah. But I'm gonna go ahead and put it at a high C tier. Like I just don't see it. If you're gonna be playing Droplet, it's gonna be main deck. It's definitely not side deck card. And remember, if we're gonna be doing side deck, I think it's high C.
Yeah. So
Like
I
the
was
drink.
gonna say C, but for a completely different reason.
Okay,
Um,
well go ahead.
so Droplet was seeing its most play in the Scythe DPE format, or just like Scythe formats in general. Whereas you were getting Scythe locked in the standby phase, you were getting Scythe locked in the main phase, you're getting Scythe locked in the standby phase. Whether it's Baron bring back Scythe, DPE pop Scythe. So in those formats, Droplet was really strong, and you needed Droplet because that's what effectively did with the Scythe. Like you got DP pop Scythe, chain droplet, negate the DPE, good game. I'm going to kill you now. But the way like the boards have like migrated, like after Poe, no one played droplet, and then Cashier came out. No, you could not play droplet. Um, so while I think that the decks and the boards that decks are making right now, not only it does not work that for the card economy, because if you're gonna drop it, you're gonna have to like send like your entire hand. And there's very little one card starters right now.
Yeah,
Um, but
yeah. It's not
the
printing
trade off,
format.
like there's like you're playing in the main phase, so there's better quick play spells like Book of Eclipse, like we were talking about earlier, where like if you play against tier, you Book of Eclipse that board. Like if it's like the Rukalos, Kaleido Heart, Salute board, you Book of Eclipse up, and they lose on the spot. So I think Droplet is a high C, but not for the part of it is the card economy. The other thing, you're not really negating anything like that's super high end.
Right.
Yeah.
That's fair. Alright. Get rid of that card. Denko Seka. Next.
Next. D for Denko. I love this.
Denko.
Like this card was game back in like 2014, but like it just no.
Yeah. No, even against Labyrinth it doesn't do anything because they could just beat over it, right?
Or they just go like cuckoo clock.
Yeah, oh, no, yeah, they go that version. It doesn't do anything. Carry on. Next one. Super Poly. I was gonna go ahead and leave this right here.
Bro, you just.
I mean, it says self-explanatory to me. It breaks literally every single board that you go up against, except for like some Unchained, because some of the targets that we have are inconvenient.
I would put it in like B. I put it in high B.
No,
like,
don't do that.
No. Here, because the card is strong.
Crazy,
but
strong.
Not everyone is playing triple Super Poly with Guru on their deck. You know what I mean? Like the card is strong, and the decks that can support it, like Branded Despian Tier, like that card is crazy. But in I just look at it as like in a generic. Like not everyone is playing Super Poly, so I would put it as like a strong, a low A or a high B. I would put it as because S is like every deck is playing this card.
Okay,
or every deck should be playing this card.
True. Okay. It is extremely high impact, and I think it's good against every board. But you're right, not every single deck can play it. We'll go ahead and what's it called? What's it called when you meet in the middle?
Meet in the middle.
There's a word for it. Compromise.
Compromise. Yeah.
We'll meet in the middle and compromise. We'll call it a card. S tier for me though, guaranteed. Kurikara was S tier last format. Cash tier is no longer a thing. Is it Denko Seka bad?
Nah, it's not Denko Seka bad.
I was about to say I think it has some applicability.
I would say move to. It's like
between.
So the Kurikara, when you use it effectively, is like super. Like when you're trading cards into, and then you just like Kurikara sack the entire board is like crazy. But the problem is it shined against Kashtera because you like had Rise Heart, Shang, Fenrir, Unicorn. And you just like sack the entire board, make a Zeus. Or even if you got rid of the Rise Heart and let's say a Fenrir and a Shang, you then make Zeus and then clear the entire board anyway.
Right.
So, but the problem is it shined against that and Pearly. It doesn't really do much into the Unchained board because when they activate the monster effect, they're leaving it. It deals with the Caesar, but we've already been established that there's better cards to deal with like the Unchained board. So I'd probably put out like a low B to a high C.
I think we're gonna go ahead and agree with the high C.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it has applicability. I like it as well in decks like Pirelli, where you have level 1s or whatever it might be, or like Vanquish Soul because it's a fire. So I like it in decks that it has additional applicability, where it has more versatility as a card itself. But it's by its own effect, I would say high C.
I also forgot about Vanquish Soul. That's hilarious.
Huh?
I forgot Vanquish Soul even like existed.
Yeah, it doesn't get the attention at all. Any attention. It's a cool deck. I don't know. Anyway, Ghost Bell.
I would put it in C.
Yeah. I was being really harsh initially. I was like, well, nah, it has some applicability. Like, it hits some Branded, some Labyrinth.
It's like Crow and Bestials are better, but it does have application.
Oh,
yeah. Like, you can hit, like, the Big Welcome, and you can hit, like... you can hit Big Welcome, and I think the Labyrinth deck, but the problem is, like, Crows and Bestials are usually better against everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, C is fine.
Yeah, no, definitely agree. Dharma Cannon. Where's my mouse? Dharma Cannon. So I know it's a card that's seen a little bit more play recently. Before the ban list, like right before the ban list, is after the ban list. I mean, I don't know realistically because it gets rid of anything that's not a link. It gets rid of all link monsters, right?
It gets rid of pretty much everything. It
And gets
books.
it
It
books
books.
and then gets rid of it, right?
Yeah, I put it at B. I think like the card is super strong,
Mm-hmm.
but again, we don't know what we're going into, so it's hard to be like this card is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like that card is, don't get me wrong, that card is crazy,
Mm-hmm.
but in certain like there's always gonna be better cards to play. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
because most of the time, most of the initial scenes of that card was that it dealt with Unchained very well. Sense, right? So if you're dealing with an Unchained board, you book like Caesar, or you book everything and then you send everything else. So nothing got destroyed. But the problem is Unchained, depending where you do it, can play past it because you can just pop stuff while it's face down. Um, and I think it's like the fourth best card you can set off Thrust, or like the third best card you can set off. So
Yeah.
I think what's it called? Like B is
I just don't think that a lot of decks can actually play this card as well.
yeah,
Like
because then you also
it's a
clears your own
trap.
stuff
It's
too.
slow. Like unless you have thrust, you know. Um. Anyway, let's go into the next one. Summon limit. It's a cool card. Um. What deck can play this?
Pearly. Pearly's the only deck that has been playing Summon Limit recently.
Mm-hmm.
Besides like the rogue decks. Like I seen some Cashier play it like last format.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put it at like B. I
Yeah.
think the card is strong, but most floodgates are very like deck specific.
It's
Some
only
decks
because it is very deck specific though, right? Because I
yeah.
mean, Summon
Like
Limit is a wild card on its own.
the amount of times like I've won games playing Pearly where I just like my opponent summoned twice and I just like flip that card with like a third on the like in Pearly, that card just shines, right? But against like
Mm-hmm.
everything else, I think Unchained can kind of play it, but again, this card like you're trying to link on your opponent's turn as well, so it seems very like win more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'll probably B is fine, like medium B.
Yeah. Um.
Oh,
Super
same
ancient
thing with the
organism.
Grave,
Huh?
like same. No, I was gonna say same thing with the Super Ancient Grave. Like that card is like very strong against like branded. But the problem is it's only good in Pearly versus branded. Like when you listen to any Pearly player say, "Yeah, I play 3 Grave of the Super Ancient Organism. I play this card for branded."
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the technically you could put it, it's good against cash, but like now it's better against cash. But again, same. It's a
Yeah, but
similar
we said
problem of
playing
like
cash is very specific. It's
yeah,
very niche. I gotta say high
so yeah,
C. Does that make sense?
yeah, that's fine. I agree with that.
Herald of the Abyss. I'm gonna go ahead and put at a A.
Yeah,
It still has
I
good versatility against a lot of the top tier decks. It's a card you can still play at 3. It's a thrust target. I mean, am I wrong here?
so I look at it as if you put Thrust in S tier, that card's S tier by proxy because
Mm-hmm.
you always play 2 to 3 Thrust with one Herald of the Abyss in your deck.
True.
Um,
Well,
so
we can
if you
go ahead
put
and get this one out the way regardless. This is definitely S
yeah
tier.
yeah just throw it out exactly. So I would just put Herald of the Abyss in S tier because if you play Thrust, you should be playing Herald of the Abyss.
Right.
Um, it deals with Noir. It dealt with Rice Heart. Like it deals with just every unaffected monster. it's a great like one trade. They cannot
Mm-hmm.
respond. Like that card is very strong,
Yeah.
and it's a very good thrust target.
Yeah. No,
Um,
I agree.
let's throw another S tier Duster. Throw it right in there.
Yeah.
S
Cards that we
tier.
don't
This
need to
is the
think about.
huh?
Cards that
That's
don't need a reason. They're just we know they're S tier.
what's it called? That is the best. What's it called? Best back removal you ever play. Yeah. I would throw Deeper in A, but
No.
that's just because okay.
It
So no, so the reason I
Go
say
ahead.
the only reason I say A for D-Berry because while it destroys Pearly and it destroys Branded, against Unchained it does very little, and against like more of like the random like decks it does very little. But I think the card is still very strong, like against
Mm-hmm.
like the rogue synchro decks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that's the only reason I would say it was like A tier. But you also can argue the same thing of Herald of the Abyss that
Mm-hmm.
if you play Thrust, you should play at least one copy of D-Barrier, which means it should be in everyone's side deck because you can thrust that D-Barrier one first.
Right. So not only a thrust target. You can play it with a trap trick if you're playing more of a trap based strategy, or if you want to go ahead and play other cards as well, like different dimension grounds or whatever nonsense you want to go ahead and play in addition to your side deck, which is a card we will not be covering because that card should not even be thought of. But anyway, beside the point. I think Deep Air is just way too good to not play in your side deck. If you're not going to be using it against anybody, it at the very worst case scenario could be like a crossout designator target for yourself. In the event that you
You don't
yourself
get
are
buried.
playing like a Manadium or a Purelli or a Brandis strategy that rely very heavily on being able to do those specific few things. So that's my argument for putting it in S tier.
No, I agree. I agree.
But
I
it
retract the statement.
we can both agree it's a high impact card.
Yes, super.
It's a high impact card. Nibiru, A or S?
So, okay, this is I would put a S because I feel like if you're not maining that card, you should be siding three. But I think
True.
that's more of a main deck card than a side deck card.
True.
And I feel like if you are not maining it, then it should be because like if against the average Unchained player, that card's crazy. Against like most of these combo decks, that card's crazy. You know, like the whole joke about the salad on board is just probably token. Like, that card is super strong, and certain decks it shines more, like Pearly, because like you're drawing like 4 to 6 cards. So having the Nibiru plus the Noir is like insanity. Um, yeah, I think if you're not maining, you should be siding it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. Um, on to the next one. Let's
Oh,
see. Huh?
well, I'll throw Joel that too. Like, I see Joel as well, right there next to the kaiju. I think Joel is very similar. Like, if you're not maining, you should like this would
Yeah.
probably be like the fit on your side
I think.
because
I think.
against like those.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say against like Manadium, Infernoble. Like these are decks like I'm talking about. Like it's like who the hell is playing Manadium and Infernoble? But like
You know you're gonna
there's
run into it.
more. Yeah, exactly. People are gonna try it because there's no like those decks. The main reason people stopped playing those decks was because you folded to a Rise Heart and you had to play like Book of Moon, Book of Eclipse, Talents just to deal with the Rise Heart.
Right.
And even then, sometimes it was crazy to deal with it. But now with no Rise Heart and no Shifter too, or little to no Shifter, like unless you play against the Flugu, what's it called? Then you really want Joel because Joel will usually just stop the random decks in their spot. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. It's a card that needs to be in your deck one way or another, main or
yeah,
side. It has to be there. Again,
it has to.
to respect all matchups.
Yeah.
What's this called? XYZ Encore was phenomenal. Last format, absolutely phenomenal. We can all agree last format this was guaranteed an S tier. A to S, I want to say. Card right now, I'm gonna go ahead and put it at between a C or a D. I really don't find the purpose to go ahead and play this card as much. I mean, what are your thoughts on this one?
I think that card is super strong against Pearly, and like again, last format it dealt with the Rise Heart and it dealt with Noir, which is like the most like important two cards. Um, if Dweller gets popular, then I can see this card moving up
Mm-hmm.
because this card deals with Dweller for the same reason it deals with Noir and what's it called? Because
Mm-hmm.
you just use your turn player priority. You just like XYZ Encore the Dweller can't respond.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so against like tier, you just shut off that, and then it also has over Pearly matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So
but
it's
if it's
primarily
not
being
that
like a.
popular,
Sorry, go ahead.
hmm? Yeah. So if it's not that popular, then C tier is perfect for it because it
Yeah,
only had play because it dealt. It was a card that both dealt with Noir and the Rise Heart.
yeah. Whereas now, yes, Pirelli is going to be one of the top tier decks, but it's definitely I do not believe that Pirelli is going to be the most highly represented deck by any means.
No, I think that probably will go down chain.
Yeah, yeah, Unchained, and I think people just want to play something new, you know. So,
Yeah.
well, we'll see where that goes. Anyway, Eradicator Epidemic Virus I honestly was S tier for like a few weeks. Right now, I do not believe it's nearly as strong. I would put it in the C tier category.
I
Um,
agree.
yeah, it just there's so many decks right now that are either very monster heavy or just don't really lose to this card, or just cannot get to it nearly as effectively as other decks previously could, right? Except unless you're playing Labyrinth.
Yeah, I think when this card was like people like Eradicator is one of those cards that always like go in and out. It's like Eradicator and Dweller are they're very similar cards where there's formats where everyone's like ban Dweller, ban Eradicator, or because you have like these sacky moments that are like more what's it called, more noticed. Like people are only low key people are only being like, yo, we need a ban because on two separate streams, people got sacked by Eradicator. Like it was so it was like what's it called? It was more like in your face, like yo, this card. Sometimes this card will sack the crap out of you, but there's a lot more times where the card is very okay. Like I think I would put it in more high C than low C, but because that card again is very strong when it does like resolve for like ripping most of your spells, especially when you have people playing like talents and thrust. Um, but I think it's not as generic as or not as easy of access as it was like in those formats.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. Okay, so these we can kind of hit in rapid succession. I got Gamma Seal representing all kaijus, Lava Golem, and Raw Sphere mode. I what decks now would run Lava Golem?
I think Lava Golem and Sphere mode are both low B, high C, but Kaiju is high B, low A.
Because this is how I was gonna go ahead and go about it. ABC.
I agree with that. I think that's fair because like each kaiju has their strengths.
Yeah.
Like Radiant and Gamma Seal are really good in like tier because they're water aquas and dark, and then it's a dark, so you can make Mud Dragon or Garura, and then it also just deals with the noir. And it has like engine applications. And then like Dogoran is really good in like Salamander because it's a fire, so when Salamander to fire lock, you can just like Dogoran it, and like before with grab Darley. So, and then Lava Golem is usually like the safest Sphere mode and Lava Golem because like most words will end on at least two monsters. And then Sphere mode was like when you made the crazy board, it would out it, but most of the time they were making two monsters. So I think ABC is perfect.
Yeah. Evenly matched. I'm stuck. Huh?
A tier for sure.
Yeah, I was about to say I'm stuck between S and A. Out of all these cards, I would definitely put it down here.
I put it at high A.
I was about to say I'm not saying this is like Gamma Seal. I would prefer it. I was just gonna go ahead and put it there, but I guess.
No, it's just like it's good against Pearly because it removes the follow up, which is really strong. Like Noir, like so when Pearly goes Noir through the trap, they pretty much have a turn to kill you. And if you remove the field spell, the continuous trap, and whatever external cards they have, then Evenly is super strong. It's also really good against like tier. It's good against Unchained, because banish face down. But like not every deck can play it. Like this card's not that strong in Pearly because you need your battle phase silent, or what's it called, or help me out here, or do you do like happiness OTKs? But I think this card can still be a blowout. It also conflicts with Bastiles and Abiru, and a card that's not in here, but like could have been Phantasme, same thing, conflicts with those cards.
Damn, I forgot to put Phantasme.
I put Phantasme in like B tier, so it's okay. So yeah, no, I think the card is strong, but I think there's certain cards that are better that evenly conflicts with.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. Solemn Judgment. So what I do like about Solemn Judgment is that it negates most of the cards that we have in here. It negates most of the cards that we have in here. So I'm gonna go ahead and put Solemn Judgment at a high B to low A. Just because I know that it's not gonna get the representation in the side deck, but in theory, it does help you out whatever nonsense your opponent's gonna have for you. For example, obviously Labyrinth is gonna play Solemn Judgment because you're gonna get Harpy's Feather Dusted, as we saw on stream multiple times, or if you want to go ahead and make sure that you don't get I don't know. Help me out here. Herald of the
Custard, Even
Abyss,
Lead, Lightning
or
Storm, Dencode.
yeah,
Like,
and well, not that code. I mean,
hmm?
yeah, I get what you're saying.
I
So
mean,
I think
Judgment does deal with Denko.
it does. So yeah,
Not
I think high B, maybe low A, but I just don't think it's gonna get that love. But I do still think it's an extremely impactful card that's at least worth considering.
it's like Judgment is so strong when you don't have to like I've been playing Judgment in Pearly recently, and like just having something to back up the Noir, or to have like that backs up, like I don't have to care about Book of Moons, I don't have to care about Lightning Storm. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's just a very strong card, but like half your life is a lot of the time, and a lot of decks like it'll trade, or like it becomes like, do I really want to activate this card because then I'm gonna lose 4K? But like when you have like an unprecedented board and only one or two cards can out it, having a Judgment to put them on, now you have to have the second copy of the card to out the board, is super strong.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a high B is fine because it's also it's a trap, so you can only put it in going first. Then you have to hard draw it. Yeah, I think high B is fine.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go ahead and
D-Berry
touch.
is so good, we had to put it twice.
Huh?
D-Berry is so good, we had to put it twice.
Hey
It's
yo,
right
D
next
Berry
to
is
it.
that nice. I was trying not to do this. I was making sure I did look through my images, but whatever. These three, there can be the goes in match and the rivalry are similar cards, but I want to go ahead and touch on Ultimate Slayer first. Um,
Sounds good.
what to go over Ultimate Slayer first, or are you saying
Yeah.
Ultimate Slayer is a good card?
A little bit of both. I think it's really good into the Unchained deck. Yeah, I think it's really good into the Unchained deck, because it deals with Caesar and the field spell, or not the field spell, sorry, the Link Two or
The
Link
Rage.
Monster, the Rage. Yeah, it deals with that very well because you can bounce the Rage and then Kisakil sends the, or Trouble Sunny sends Kisakil, send the Caesar. Um, So
Yeah,
like
so
it
on and
deals with
so
that
forth.
board very effectively. But the
Mm-hmm.
problem is you have to be playing cards that deal with the you have to be playing specific cards. So like you can't put Slayer in against Pearly unless you're playing the X a good X, or you
Right.
can't put it against Tier unless you're playing a good fusion target like Garura.
I
Um
think the only
so
deck that can genuinely play this is Flu
Rescue Ace
or
can also play
Eldritch.
it.
Oh, true, true.
Um, yeah,
Or Vanquish Zone.
it's not a deck we talked about much here, but Rescue Ace like has a very flexible extra deck. So Rescuers can play it. In theory, you can side it in Pearly because your extra deck has like two flex spots. Um, so in theory, you can side it in Pearly.
Is it worth it?
Um, pros, it again, the card has its pros and cons. Like it's a one card, it deals with the entire on-chain board, which is like that's why it's like very strong, but it doesn't have the overlap.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think it's still strong enough though where it's like a real side, especially because it's technically a thrust target too. Um, that you get like Ash or something, you can go right, cool, thrust, get Herald of the Abyss, or get Ultimate Slayer, crack the entire on-chain port and play.
Right. Yeah. And now we get to the fun one, which is the floodgates. Yay,
Continuous trap
floodgates.
cards.
There can be only one. I'm gonna go ahead and put A tier. Um, it deals with Unchained extremely well. I think it's being main decked in a lot of decks right now as well. So honestly, I think this has a lot of potential. We'll see where the format takes us, but I think there can be only one's going to be A tier card.
Um, I throw all of them in B, like just in general, because but the thing is, like looking at them individually, um, there can be only one technically is the strongest of the three
Mm-hmm.
because the way like cards are designed now, designed type, um, so like that card is like when you draw, there can be only one. It is game. Like if you draw it against like Pearly, or if you draw it against Unchained, that card is like you cannot out that card typically. But the problem is so few decks can play it. It doesn't see consistent play. Like I know you can play it in branded, and I know you can play it in the Chimera branded deck, and
And the
I
Sky
believe,
Striker, baby.
yeah. But then you can't play them in Pearly, and you can't play them in Unchained. But like when you do draw, so I would put it at like high B. I think it's a more fair spot because of like
Mm-hmm.
it's only one deck's playing it, but when you do draw it, that card is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Goes in rivalry have like the archetype problem where a lot of archetypes are being designed to be like mono attribute mono type. So like
Mm-hmm.
for example, like those cards are really bad against like Salamangreat, but
Mm-hmm.
specifically in Salamangreat is a cool interaction where you can Weasel, give them a fire of Cybers, and then you flip Rivalry or Gozen, and they are now locked into fire or Cybers, and
That's messed
you
up.
kill them. Yeah, no, I was thinking about that, like because I've been testing that deck on the side, and I'm like, oh, this is cool because you can side 3 Gozen, 1 Rivalry, because Gozen's objectively better than Rivalry,
Mm.
and they're locked into fires. Um, and but like again, it's the more fringe play of these cards are very specific, and they're not seeing a lot of play. Like if
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at floodgates, I'd rather play like a summon limit or an anti spell or a D-bear, stuff that's more and more for a room, as opposed to like how rivalry and Gozen are. But like
Mm-hmm.
those cards are still like the annoying floodgates that when your opponent flips them on you, get them. Why?
Right.
Like why you do this? Why you choose to be like this?
Oh man, that's
But
crazy.
yeah,
So we just went through the entire side deck catalog in about an hour. Not bad.
not bad at all. For me talking, that's not bad at all.
No, that's not bad at all.
That's not
Honestly,
bad at all. I'd be happy.
yeah, I think we touched on each and every single card respectfully. I think we dedicated enough time to each one. But ultimately, the format has obviously not been decided yet, guys. So if you guys have any ideas for any side deck cards that we may have missed, if you guys have the goo, let us know in the comment section down below. We can go ahead and analyze it for an additional video later on down the line. Besides that, guys, this has been a lot of fun. Hope you guys enjoyed me and Rob talking it up, chatting it up for about an hour or so. If you guys stick with us to the end, you guys are the realest of MVPs. I appreciate each and every single one of you guys. As I said in the previous video, I do have some fun stuff in the works. Rob and I were talking about it earlier, so if you guys are like exciting stuff, make sure you guys like, subscribe to the video, guys. Rob, you have any final words for the people at home?
If you guys don't like our opinions, always you can always talk about it in the comments. You can make fun of Sebastian, or you make fun of me for not wanting to put Super Poly in S tier. You can make fun of Sebastian for wanting to put Super Poly in S tier. You can make fun of Sebastian for putting D-Bear twice. Yeah.
Hey
But
man,
don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think in the
that's what the
comments
comments
below.
are for, just a roast section.
Yes. They have to change the name. Instead of the comment section, it's the roast
The
section.
roast section. Anyway,
Ooh,
guys, hope you
perfect.
guys did enjoy. Once again, if you guys stuck around this long, appreciate each and every single one of you guys. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next one.